Hi, and welcome to a new PlugInGuru video. My name is John Skippy Limcool. Welcome. This is a cool video. I had a chance yesterday to interview Arne Schulze. And so I'm going to play that in a moment. And then afterwards, we're going to do I want to show you a couple kind of important but subtle tricks. This is kind of the more finer details of programming that I use. And also for music production. There's a tip for sound design and a tip for production, and we're going to do a demo song real quick because I need more demo songs. And I want you to see a couple things as we go. So stay tuned, watch this video. Anyway, enjoy. Hey, so my name's John Limcool. You are Arne. Now, I don't know how, you're from Norway, so there's a special way you say Arne, right?
Arne.
Arne?
Yeah, or Arne or Arnie. I'm used to Arnie. So
are you used to?
Don't call me Arnold.
Right. Don't call me Arnold. No.
Okay.
Now, Arne has an incredible, or I'll just say Arne. Is that okay? Because I'm kind of used to Arne. Okay. Arne is the mad genius that back in the 80s created all of these sounds, the samples that we're using for the inspiration to the patches that we made for the Galactic Library. And so I thought it'd be a fun treat to, I talked to Arne and he was like, yeah, I can do this. Because these were made back when we didn't have incredible sonic tools that were just button clicks in your computer, and it would like make these like, there's incredible stories behind many of these sounds. So just a real quick history, just a little bit. So you're originally from Norway.
Originally Norway, yeah.
And you had someone you knew in Norway that had one of everything.
No, I was born in Norway. My family immigrated actually to California when I was 3 years old. I lived there till I was 10. Moved back to Norway when I was 10. Didn't know how to ski, didn't know how to ice hockey, didn't know how to play soccer, whatever. And I became this nerd. So rock and roll became my revenge because Norway had no clue.
Yeah.
So I kind of started one of Norway's first rock bands, kind of in the 60s,
Right.
whatever, and followed up with the Sympho Rock and the whole technology thing. I had a 24-track studio with the whole wall of Roland 700 series, a TR-808, and I was supported by Roland. So I kind of and Mellotron from 1971, whatever. So that became my first sampler.
Wow. Right. Yeah, the original.
Whatever. But then I had the studio and it was all into the technology thing and going dugga 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 dugga, and Norway could care less. They had no use or need for me.
Yeah.
So I was lucky to come across Michael Boddicker. Met him in Norway, and then later visited him in the studio, and kind of he realized I was kind of into a lot of the shit that he was doing, whatever. So
Right.
he offered me a job. So wow, finally someone who appreciated the madness.
Right. Right.
So I moved there in '83 and then fell in love with sampling. He had the emulator, the PPG, later the Fairlight, whatever. But
Right.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Yeah. So yeah.
Awesome. And so some of these sounds were developed. You worked on many different albums for many different artists. You were part of the whole Michael Jackson, was it Dangerous album?
Well, history I got credits on, but working with Michael Boddicker, who was one of the top LA, he still is one of the top.
Yeah.
It was, from whatever, Barbra Streisand, Donna, Sheena Easton, Cyndi Lauper, Julio Iglesias. I mean, it's like,
Right.
whoa.
Who's coming in this week? Who's coming in today? Right.
Yeah, and they all just had to come up with the killer sounds, whatever. So
Right.
It was always a challenge and fun. I mean, it was really, really fun.
Nice. So some of these sounds came during that era.
Yeah. Some of that when I worked on some projects where I was sound design for Pumpkinhead, scary stuff, whatever. So that Buckaroo Banzai, so you had to come up with sounds, and they wanted organic sounds, which the DX7 didn't do, and whatever. So I was sampling vegetables and all kinds of stuff, whatever.
Right.
Which was fun. I mean, it was a whole new. Wow. And
right.
Like I said, the wow factor was wow. It was
a
lot easier then.
Right. Hey, look at when I squeeze this thing of Jello in front of my microphone.
Yeah. Play it 2 octaves down.
And then play 2 octaves down.
Process it, whatever.
Right. So let's do this. Let's just, because we could talk synthesis for days and make everybody just kind of go to sleep. But let's focus it into the Galactic Library. So the first sound of the library is air bees. So I'm assuming there's bees involved with that.
There was one, it was actually a sound effect, CD, whatever, that had a single bee going, bee, whatever. And I've just sampled that to actually PPG, which had a lot of really cool filter, whatever. Then by just having it sustain forever, it just hit, multiple times. You layered it, and became like a. Then playing that an octave down, 2 octaves down, became like this organic cello, whatever.
Right.
So
the PPG was like a form of resynthesis. It wasn't true sampling, right?
No, it was. I mean,
it had the wave term. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it had the wave term. I mean, Michael had the wave term, whatever.
Right.
So it was, 8-bit, whatever, organic, whatever. But the PPG made it really grungy, really whatever.
And you hear that. You hear that in the sound. It's just got this like, what in the heck is in that? So, and you said your voice was in that somehow?
Yeah, I think if I remember right, I added my voice, just overdubbed my voice, I don't know, not 100 times, but it was some trick to learn from Mike Stone, working with him and Norway, whatever. Like the Queen did, whatever, layering their voices 100 times, whatever.
Right.
And I can't sing, so because I have so much fluctuation, when you do that 100 times, it really gets,
now you're in ya.
Yeah. And also technique that a lot of those sounds ended up with were, I remember what it was, which reverb was a high-end reverb tool that you could have kind of sustain, forever. I mean, the release. So once it's just the reverb that becomes like a really easy to loop kind of ambient kind of thing that you could throw in all kinds of stuff and it gets on top of each other,
Right. And then you end up with this really cool mishmash and then loop that.
So a lot of those sounds have that flavor to it also. I mean, that technique at the end to get it to be sustainable kind of.
Right. So some of the big sustain, the big chord, the K-Lust kind of things.
Yeah. Multi-layered. I mean, I often I did 50-disc library for the Mirage at one time.
Okay.
First, I think it was the first third-party library out there.
Right.
And layering that with other sonic EPS and whatever I had, the roll gear and whatever, and just throwing this on there and that on there and just layering stuff.
Right.
That's why it's difficult to say how that sound. Those bells that it was playing in the kitchen and making a lot of noise there, whatever.
Right. It's a composite of a whole bunch of different even sources. It's not all from one.
No, exactly.
See, today everything comes from your one computer, from one thing, and you're using different plugins, and they all kind of have a similar thing. And so that's what I thought was really fresh with having these samples to work with, is that's just this, you don't know where it's coming from, and there's history to it. So
sorry, and I think I told you earlier one time where it was the days before the DAT machine. We had a friend of mine, whatever, we had a Betacam portable video recorder, combined with the F1, which was a Sony kind of way of making it possible to record stereo 16-bit audio to this, whatever. And we would go on what we call sampling safaris, going finding industrial areas or junkyards or whatever, and that was
So that was like before DAT.
Yeah, that was
They hadn't quite condensed it down into the portable, because I used to go to Japan with the DAT machine, and I'd be sitting on an airplane playing DAT tapes to listen to while flying to Japan because I liked the sound quality of digital audio. It was a higher resolution than a cassette tape player or something like that,
No, I did get a small little portable DAT, which I also used to record because I know I was able to get my hands on. There's another story that I in Norway, because of the studio, I was helping some avant-garde composer in Norway who did a lot of weird stuff with vocally and whatever that. And I helped him with sounds, whatever, and he let me actually get some copies, which I brought with me, and then on quarter-inch tape, and then I remember all this stuff, whatever, be useful, whatever. So I think that was a layered,
Wow.
If you have 10 seconds of it, you can dub this. You can make it, overdubbed, 20 times, and it comes. And then process that and pitch shift it, whatever.
How about goblins?
Do you have it there? You play it, and then because I don't.
Yeah, remember. Let's see if I turn.
might be some of the sounds I recovered from a cave in Norway. They were hidden in a cave in Norway that I was able to bring to life.
Right. It's got some sort of, I mean, it's very haunting, stuff like that. Yeah. How about God's Spaceship?
Of I think it's in Claver, but I also had access to one time there was a Canadian company, Technos, who made a Axel. I don't know if you ever saw that. It was this weird kind of screen with all these small little LEDs.
Right.
And it had hundreds of oscillators, and you could resynthesize whatever. So if you sample the piano sound, you can make that into whatever. Wow. And any kind of organic sound. I mean, there was so many things that I just recorded.
Right.
Afterwards. Okay.
Right. Just go looking through the library later.
Helpful tool that I had access to one was kind of contracted to Yamaha for like 10 years exclusively, whatever, for them.
Right.
They had a prototype of a VL16 voice, physical modeling, and like the VL.
Right.
Which had totally different. It was not like this.
VL1, the mono
instruments, but it was organic, and
wow,
and a lot of great stuff came from that, which are in some of these sounds,
right?
Which I don't have. I had to give that, and I had to give it back. But they were like, "Where did that go?" Whatever. Okay, I have it.
I know, right?
Give a lot of credit to Alchemy.
Yeah.
Which
I miss Alchemy so much.
Early, whatever.
Yeah.
Donnie Blank did whatever. I still have a hyped up G5 with OS 9 because I have to use OS 9 for it, and it still becomes useful when I have to do small memory.
Right.
It's really helpful, the resynthesis there, to be able to whatever. Yeah.
Right. And you probably have Infinity, the looping software, still there.
Yeah, but you know what? I came up with my own looping schemes, whatever.
Yeah.
With Alchemy.
Yeah.
There's stuff that was never in the manual.
Yeah.
I had these macros. I think one click was a macro that worked with OS 9, where if you loop the piano going young, because you're trying to do a general MIDI set for 1 meg,
right,
or a 4 meg general MIDI set, you have to loop everything
right,
pretty quick.
And you got to get that loop to be smooth.
And a piano, which has where the harmonics are sharp, you can't just have a single cycle loop.
No,
you have to have a longer loop.
Right.
Okay, you do a longer loop, and it goes young. Alchemy, you go into resynthesis, you select the fundamental, and all the harmonics, which are sharp, like 110 be 222 and then 335 or whatever.
Right.
You just select those peaks, delete everything else, and resynthesize. Ooh, it becomes pure. I mean, it was like a trick that Yamaha never could figure out. I was doing. They figured it out at the end, whatever.
Right. Wow.
So that kept me, paid my rent for a long time.
Yes. Yeah. No, for a long time you were the looping guru. I remember. Even Ben, he shared techniques that he learned from hanging out with you in the old days for what he did with the Korg DSS-1 samplers and so forth. Did you do a library for the VZ1 or FZ1?
FZ1. I did a 50 disc library.
Yeah.
There was a library from Japan, but Chaos Joe Inc. US with Jerry Kowarski at the time.
Right.
He got me because he had seen or heard what I did with Mirage, and I made a 50 disc library for the FZ1.
Because I worked at a music store in Seattle, Washington at the time.
Okay.
And I sold the FZ1s to customers.
Oh, yes.
And then Jerry and Casio had a competition, that demo sequence competition.
Oh, okay.
I won that competition.
Okay.
And I got your CDs or the discs was like what you won. And so it was so cool. I got all these Arne Schulze really cool discs.
Wow. Yeah.
So we've been connected in background ways for a long time for that type of stuff. So that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned earlier, I was talking to you about industrial choir.
Yeah. When I use it, I have a long release. Yeah. You have some pads. A lot of these sounds, I was really amazed and impressed by what you were able to do with a lot of these stuff.
Yeah.
And because when I've had them in my when I've used them, they've all been more or less like pads, just long, kind of spatial kind of whatever. But it was interesting to see how much more interesting stuff you were able to get out of that.
Well, a lot of that's a tribute to Omnisphere being just a very flexible world.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's what the other reason why I had 6 other programmers working with the samples, because you know, when I did the Wave Station with the other guys from Corgan, we all came together and we sat in the room and played, and everybody approached the Wave Station differently. I learned way back then that everybody has a voice and has experience, and you know, the music you like and the music my other guys like everything is different. So they bring that to the patches they make.
Yeah.
I mean, patches are a real true representation of you as a person, I think, you know? So, and samples too, I think there's a lot of your spirit lives on in these sounds, you know? So it's really great that we were able to do this and bring the sounds out and have them be used in so many different ways and get them in the hands of a whole lot of people around the world to work with. It kind of like, we just gave Omnisphere this whole other limb of personality to use, you know, which is great.
Yeah, no, it's great job.
There's orchestral sounds in here that were really fun. The hits and the sus and the unison, the orchestral bang. You remember that?
Yeah. I did some in Norway. I was a session guitar player for many years, and did a lot of. And the band I was with, one of the other guys was a composer and orchestrator, whatever. And we did a lot of recordings with huge orchestras. And I was able to, like, okay, I can I can use this part, I can use this bag, whatever.
Right.
You know? So
how fun is Rumble? You remember that? You know, let me turn off this and go like
real low. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, such a great sound. It's okay. You don't. There's no pressure to have to recall what everything is.
No, but I love to change the pitch of you know, of if there was something that was, you know, when I lowered it to or it became, and then filter or whatever and make it more organic kind of.
Well, back, you know, when sampling was just coming out, I would go over to Eric's house and we would share songs back and forth, and he would show new sounds he was working on, and he'd say, "It's cool here, huh?" It would be like up high at the keyboard, and he goes, "But watch this," and he'd play it like 5 octaves down low, and it just have this like overtones, and these, and it's like, see, isn't that really that? And that really got the eyes open, like, you know, what a sample is when it's played at its normal pitch is not at all what it is maybe going to be when you're done creating it to a certain point, you know?
Yeah. No, the PPG was really good at when you went down 2 or 3 octaves, that it didn't become that kind of
It kept tighter.
Breaking up, but you could filter that and make that.
Right.
It was. I love. Love to have
the sample engine in Serum. It's actually the noise oscillator, and I've used it for 2 libraries because it transposes so nicely down low. It's very high level math.
Very few, if any, of these come from one element.
Yes.
You understand? So there's this combination of then processing and
big time.
So what originally where it started is like almost gone. It's almost
right. Well, it's a new thing.
Evolved into digging up some. Oh yeah, well that's.
It's like digging up old. It's like
my old sounds to life again.
Yeah. It just puts it into a whole new generation of composers and musicians to use. They can take these raw samples and start from scratch, or they can take the patches that we've made and modify them to their taste, but it lives on, you know? It's not just living back on a Mirage disc somewhere in somebody's garage, you know?
My garage at least.
Well, thank you for your time.
Okay, I'm sorry I couldn't be more.
No, this is great. People know who you are. I just want people to know. My goal with my website is to put personalities to the sound, to put us behind this. So many of these companies, you buy the sounds, and you don't know who made it.
Yeah.
You don't know who created this. And to me, sound is more sacred than that. We are in the sounds. My persona is in my patches, you know? And so I want them to know who you are, because that was the basis for why I wanted to work with this library. So.
Great. Hey,
you know?
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah. It's all good. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Man, and
here's to the next library.
Yeah. Hey.
Let's go. Okay, welcome back. So we're going to make a demo song for Galactic, the library that just came out. using the samples from Arne, I want to show you something that I had a one-on-one session for 4 hours with one of my customers that came to Portland. He was here for some other work and was able to come by, and we did a really nice programming session. It got a whole list of possible videos I can do for showing you guys things that we covered. This is one of them. The two things I'm going to show you, I'll tell you ahead of time so you can be thinking about this. The use of, there's a certain EQ inside of Omnisphere 2 that was in Omnisphere 1. Just turning it on and everything sounds better. So I'm going to show you that. And then I want to point out how powerful and useful multi-output is, even if you're just in a stereo mix with Omnisphere. It makes a difference. It truly does. It's subtle, but if you're going for mixing the record of your life and you want it to sound as good as possible, you'll want to know about this. So first off, we need to make a song. I'm using Logic. It's right here. I currently, on the channel strip, I have another Omnisphere over here to remind me of the drum sounds I want to use when we get to that point. I'm going to use a couple drums from OMG Volume 2 that aren't out yet. We're working on that as we speak. But I'm going to build the song here in this Omnisphere, the other one you don't see. Okay? So I'm going to have this mixer go over here for a second. This isn't per se a Logic tutorial at this point. I'm going to do some of those in the future too. Here's my environment, and I have the keyboard working this time. And the mod wheel. Yes! Okay, we're going to take this sound, and my challenge is the webcam. I'm moving the webcam. Sorry. It's nice to be centered. I don't know if it's centered now or not, but you have to be in your own... That's centered, per se. So I could be close. I can't tell, but I don't care. I need to see the screen more than I need to see you. So please don't feel bad. So we're going to take this sound and modify it because right now it's a pad. And I've talked about, and I want you guys to think about this. My goal, just to be clear, I don't know if I've spelled this out. I'm going to do a new introductory video for my webpage for YouTube. So my goal is to get you guys to think. And I talked with the client that was here when we did our programming session. This was something we talked about a lot. When you are writing music, you're using a part of your brain and you're being creative, just like an artist that's painting. When an artist turns over here to mix the colors in their palette, to change the colors to make a new palette set of colors, they're still in art mode. They're still thinking artistically what colors are going to work with this. When a lot of people sit down to write music with computers, and you're writing music and you're at the keyboard and you're comfortable and you're writing, it's great. And you turn to look at the computer screen and it's time to modify the sound so that it matches your music even better than it did before, to make your own colors. You freak out. There's just so many parameters and it's confusing. And I'm sorry, talking video owner manuals don't do anything to help you. They'll tell you what all the parameters are, but they don't help you get that connection between creating in music and working in the sounds and the production side of it. So my goal is to get so that when you look at a computer screen and you're looking at a plugin and you're time to dive in and shape the sounds, you're still in art mode. You're still creative. You haven't gone into freaked out panic, I'm trying to deal with a computer that I don't know how to use mode. So, oh, that's not supposed to be here. Yes, I am working on Icarus. It's amazing. We will talk more about that in the future. So for this sound, I'm going to modify the envelopes. It's kind of a slow fade in currently, so let's do this. It's more what I'm thinking about. I might even go to here. Have to remember with the Mega Magic pad samples, if it doesn't say loop at the end of the name, then it has the subtle sample beginning a shape. The fade in is in there. So you move past that and you'll get to where it's... And I'm using filtering to filter all that. Okay. So let's get a little bit brighter. That's better. So I'm going to play just a simple part, keep it kind of sparse. I'm going to add 2 or 3 other parts to this. Okay, so we have this. Now I'm going to shape this. I'm going to open up this envelope, or the expanded view, because I want this to fade out nice and natural. So I hit lock. So I like the release. There. So I'm shaping it so it hits and it goes out of the way. But by making it exponential like this, the curvature makes it more natural and takes more time to get down to 0. If I play the sound, hear how natural that is? If this is like this is more your standard linear shape. Okay, so it just gets to a certain point and it finally goes away, but it doesn't have a natural decay like an acoustic instrument. I want this to be more natural, so you change it to be more exponential in shape. Inspire, you can click the envelope segments and it changes between 3 shapes. A lot of synthesizers, you can't do this. Some synthesizers have a curve knob that you change that will change the curvatures. There's different ways to do it. Omnisphere, you can go to any segment as long as it's not set to spike or any of these other interesting shapes or pulse. You can go in and you can change the actual curvature just by clicking and dragging on it. It's one of the nice advantages of this program. So now we have okay, so one more thing I'm going to do. I want to add not adding that much. I want to put a delay, a little stereo delay. Less feedback. Okay, I'm going to high pass filter the delay. One reason I like this delay over just a standard BPM delay is that the ×2 gives you separate volume for the left and the right channel, which you don't have on the earlier version just without any ×2. So now I can. So I want the left side to be heard. So make that loud. This one's softer. Bring up your mix. It's there. Okay, I moved over Logic because we do need to talk about how to set up the whole idea. Well, let's do this. Let's, yeah, we need to do this first. So Logic's default MIDI channel setup is all. And we're going to change that so that this first part is now MIDI channel 1. And by now using an option under track and other that says new track with next MIDI channel, it will automatically make a new track set to MIDI channel 2, but it's still instrument 1. And I have, there's, as you saw, if you go under track to other, there's key commands. So I know I can just hold control and hit return. And there's 6. So I'm going to go part 2, and I need a bass. And there's a bass that I want to use. So now we go up here, we click number 2 in Omnisphere, because we're done with number 1, we're done with part 1. We're on Image Score Galactic, and a Okay, that's what I want to do. Okay, and because my timing is probably off, I'll quantize it. Let's go to our mixer. We need to bring this guy down. So we're gonna have a whole bunch of parts playing. So at this point, probably bring it down to about 7 dB minus for each is safe, and then you can expand it. So I'll set this ahead of time. And as you see on my mix set now, I have some headroom to work with, which is what I want. Now the bass I want to be a little bit louder, so I'm gonna... Now, this bass. Tip number 1. Did you know, so I'm gonna look at this bass patch, and there's 2 parts to this, 2 different galactic samples. There's kind of the attack, and then there's this body, and it's nice and pure. I want it to be bigger, a little bit more round. And I could go over here and the low EQ is already fairly strong in the master channel right here that both layers get. Layer A doesn't have any effects, layer B doesn't have any effects. Now, because I did my investigative research, I noticed that A, it even sounds like it might be, no, it's not low pass filtered there, but there's just not much low end to it, whereas B has all the low end. So whatever I want to do to the sound that has the most low end content. So I want it to stand out a little bit better. The trick is this, check this out. If you use the vintage 3-band EQ, here, I'll just play this and I'm going to turn it on. Hear that? It's rounder, but I think it's fake. So I'm going to go over here. But it sounds like it adds like 5 dB or so of low EQ, but I can't tell if it's 100% real or not, but I want to recreate that sound. So it just adds like, yeah, like 6 dB. There, now when I play the track. Okay. And let's add one more part. So we go to part 3. Maybe let's add a little bell. And this one's mono, which is kind of cool. Let me try it one time. One, two, three, four. Let's quantize that real quick. Okay, and it does some cool things. So with Logic, I found I need to make another track on MIDI channel 3, so I hold down Control, Shift, and Return, and it does it for me. So I can record some mod wheel. So now I got this kind of weird stuff happening to the sound. And I think just for fun, let's look at part 3. It's using filter and delay, and the auxiliary send is halfway. Reverb's low. And I think I want this EQ to be after the reverb so that it can brighten There's not a lot of high energy here, so I'm going to bring the EQ high and down. Okay, so there's a lot going on. Okay, so watch this. So let's go over here. Oh, I was going to add one more part. Let's add drums, just for really to see how this works with the mix. So we're going to go to part 4. So I'm going to do something kind of tricky. You haven't seen this, so I'm going to go over here. I'm going to copy this part. Then I'm going to come to part 4 and say paste this part. This is a kick drum from OMG Volume 2 for the dance trance, and it's really cool. And I like this one kick from Airwave that he made for one of the grooves. So we have a lot of information happening, right? Hey, let's just build it up. Let's keep going. So let's go to part 5 on a drum. We have these really cool drum hits now. And I want it to take up a whole bunch of space and be really cool. Maybe on the downbeat. So we have all these sounds happening, right? There's a lot going on here. Now you'll notice, because I brought the levels of all the parts down to -7 on the mixer, and I brought this down to -2. If I bring this to 0, I think I'm still maybe safe. No, I'm not. Okay, back to -2. -2 you go for now. So there's a lot happening. I'm going to bring this a little bit lower down. Okay, I have a limiter on it. I'm using, this is a really nice transparent limiter. I have 0 gain, so I'm not making it super loud on my voice or anything like that. It's just to keep peaks from going away. But FabFilter stuff is awesome, just absolutely awesome. And I have all of their plugins and highly endorse them, big time, awesome stuff. So, and it doesn't cause any latency. So many of even the adaptive one in Logic causes latency, this delay on your voice. I'm able to talk with my microphone, have all these parts playing, and it's all real time. I can sequence parts, there's no latency. So that's why I use it. So I'm gonna bounce this, because we're going to do a test. So I'm going to mute my microphone, and then we'll bounce this, and then I'll be right back. So this is going to be the single version. Then we're going to do another version where it's still stereo, but every one of these sounds is mixed to a separate output in Logic, and you won't believe the difference. It's pretty startling. So hang on. Okay, we're back. I'm going to go up here and get some audio tracks. So I now have single that I can drag up here and place. So what happens is there it is. Played as a stereo audio track. I'm going to mute this for the moment. And we are now going to go to Omnisphere, and we're going to go to a setting here inside of Logic. If you click on the instrument right at the very top, you can change it to multi. And you can do this also from the mixer page. So if we're on the X for the mixer page, here's Omnisphere. If you click right here on the little triangle arrow up and down, this is where you select what plugin you want to use. The currently selected plugin is at the top of the list, and it's very easy to change to multi-output. It will do this, and it will retain everything setting-wise inside of Omnisphere exactly as it was before, but now it's multiple output. So when I open this back up, it looks the same. The only difference is when I go to the multi-page, this output is now available. It was there before, but it wouldn't work before. If you change to something else, it would still be to A. If I go over here to my mixer, and you'll notice this is the Omnisphere that I was referencing and copying that bass drum from. It's not multi-output, so it doesn't have a plus down here. But the one that I did the multi-output setting to, 2, 3, 4. I need 4 outputs. 1, 2, 3. Actually 5, because I have the 5 sounds, I think, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. So now we go over here, and we're going to say this is output A for the pad, output B for the bass, output C for the bells, output D for the kick drum, and output E for the bass boom. And now when I play it from within Logic, can you already hear? It's open. All these parts seem to be processed. It's not so, it's pretty amazing. So just for our test, I'm going to go like this. I'm going to hit bounce. I'm going to mute my microphone. Okay, we've bounced it. So I'm going to put this right here. Actually, put it right there because it's the end of 4 measures and it repeats itself. So let's unmute this. So we're playing back on 2 stereo tracks. These guys were just going to control M to, this is another trick that I shared with my client that was very fun. He didn't know if you mute over here, it mutes it. So you can't even play Omnisphere if you mute it. If you hold down Control Mute or use the mute tool that's right here, you can select and mute parts. And when they're muted, the actual muting of the instrument hasn't happened. So I can still select it and play it here, but if I play it here, they're muted. So we're going to first hear the stereo mix where everything is assigned to the same 2 outputs. And then when it gets done and it gets to the next one here, and I'm going to tell this guy to, oh wait, we're still on our mute tool. I'm going to have this stop right there rather abruptly. So I'm going to tell this guy to have a fade out. Just a little bit of a fade out. So that way it's not a pop. So listen, you'll hear a big difference when we go from, they're stereo mixes. They're both stereo mixes. One is of 5 parts in Omnisphere played to a stereo bus and bounced, and one where the 5 parts are sent to 5 different auxiliary buses inside of Logic and then bounced. And listen to the difference. It's startling. I'm going to mute my microphone so you really, I mean, YouTube audio is not that great, but check it out. Did you hear that? Did you hear it's like, boom, everything's got this different space. The space of each sound it's more transparent, 3D, there's more depth. This is one of the things I do for my mixes. When people say, how do you get mixes to have transparency and depth? You don't have it all bust to one stereo channel inside of your sequencer. It's just something to check out. It's not like, oh my God, but it is an oh my God. I mean, I can hear clearly. Hear that? We can even take it further. Let me show you this. If I go over here and set up 2 of the utility gain, this is a little auto utility, and I have one for single and one for multi, right? I'm going to invert the phase on the multi-channel. So that means that if I layer two of the same, you don't hear anything. It's perfectly phase inverted, so it cancels everything out. If I delete this and I put this single over the multi, all sorts of information shows up that it should, in theory, be phased out, but it's not. Check it out. So all that information is different between the two. So there have been physical, documentable changes in the audio because again, if I, let's make multi go over here. If I copy two of single, they phase out each other. So I know that my phase locking is locked, but when I play the two together, now it's not everything if you notice, because in the, let's go back here and have the multiplay, there's all this attack and that bass sound. Hear that? So there's more information in the multi version than in the single version. It's changed and it makes a big difference. So if you're doing mixes and you want to get the most out of a single plugin that has multiple outputs, I highly recommend getting, I'm not even using, you know, a lot of people talk about multiple outputs like you're going to a studio and you've got separate channels on an SSL console. It makes a difference here too, to think about that. So go and learn about how in your sequencer, it's different with different sequencers. And I'm sorry, I can't help you on other ones. I know Logic like very, very well. I don't know others very well. And so I'm not going to try to teach you on those. But that's how you do it. Something to investigate and to go, Omnisphere sounds even better when you bus it to separate outputs, even in a stereo mix situation. So there you go. Thank you. So many of you bought the library, and I thank you for your support. Arne thanks you for your support. And lots more coming. So I've always more stuff on the works. So thanks again. Talk to you later. Bye.